The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat. The Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
Welcome to On the Mat. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, joined by someone who's hooked on an 8-second ride, Doug Van Gelder. Welcome, Doug.
An 8-second ride? What in the world is that?
It's rodeo terms.
Okay, now I get it.
See? Buck and Bronco, you got to go 8 seconds.
Bull.
You don't like riding time. And so I'm hoping at least that translates into the rodeo.
8 seconds would be enough.
for you in wrestling.
If you can't make an attempt to get the pin, let them up.
So Doug and I, before the show, have already had an argument about the merits of riding time. It's an ongoing argument. We've had this for a long time. I was actually against riding time for the longest time until I got talked out of it. A few people had come up with valid points, I thought. I think it adds a component to the sport that's unique to the sport. And I think the only other sport that really values riding time is the rodeo. Wouldn't you agree? What other sport is there that you have to ride
How
another
can you
being?
make that correlation?
You have to, because we're just trying to...
we added this riding time from some figment of our imagination. It's not done in freestyle.
I agree. We're not talking about freestyle. If we want to talk about freestyle, I'm assuming that you like the freestyle brand better than the collegiate brand.
I'm beginning to think I do, because I was amazed at that 133-pound championship match. It was the most stunningly boring job I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
just ride, no attempt to even turn them.
Well, we're talking about the Eric Montoya match at the Midlands Finals. I didn't think it was as boring as you, and I'm very critical of boring wrestling matches. But what I saw a guy that got taken down twice and used his dominance on his feet. And then in the third period, Montoya used his ability in the top position, rode him out for the full 2 minutes, picked up the riding time point. It was 4-4, gassed Zane Richards of Illinois, and then got the takedown in overtime, or sudden victory as it's technically called. I think that adds an element to the sport that's unique, because you have to be good in all positions.
Uniquely boring.
Well, that's fine.
That's what I'm going to come with, and I'm not going to get off that.
That's good. I'm proud of you for that. And I'm actually proud of you for watching the Midlands Finals. I didn't know if that was going to happen. Were you checked in enough that you knew that it was going on, or what?
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Actually, my wife put me onto it.
She did? Well, thank you, Ruth, for doing that, because now we can talk about the Midlands Finals. Now, two matches that were outstanding that came back-to-back, and we get a chance to break down all of these matches with our final guest. He was the Northern Iowa wrestling coach from 2000 to 2002. No, 98 to 2000, excuse me, messed that up. Mark Manning will be on the program from Nebraska. His team placed second at the Midlands, had a good showing. I think they have a good team. I really do. I think
they do have a good team.
They have some quality wrestlers, so we get a chance to talk to Mark Manning, our final segment. And then if you watch the Midlands Finals or any of the broadcasts for the last few years, you've seen Purler Wrestling Academy commercials.
Sure.
And I've always wondered about that. So we get Nick Purler of Purler Wrestling Academy on our second segment. So
you remember when Nick wrestled, right?
Yeah, 94 was 7th place at Oklahoma State, part of that championship team. So absolutely remember Nick Purler and his wrestling exploits. His brother Tony wrestled at Nebraska, was a 1993 NCAA champion for Nebraska at 126. So great connection there. We get a chance to break down quite a bit of that with those guys. But as we talk about what we saw at the Midlands, two exciting matches if you like the sport, 157 and 165 were outstanding.
Yes, they were.
Kemmer ends up winning a really thrilling match at 157. It got heated between not only the athletes, but the coaches got involved too. As you saw on the sideline, it went on for a while. And then at 165, I'll tell you, that Walsh.
He's tough. He's tough. And Isaiah moving up, that was the first time that, he's done that. I mean, he's been doing it this season, but he was really getting put to the test.
He was. And,
for a two-time NCAA champion as a junior, he had some real competition there in that final match.
And I liked the way Walsh wrestles. just wide open, willing to hit stuff, really fearless out there. I didn't see a guy that was intimidated at all to go out there and mix it up with.
Now, is he related to that Walsh?
He is.
From Northwestern, right?
From Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah, that plays second. So that's his brother. And they have identical
He's a little
styles.
more conventional than his brother, but
Well, I don't know.
he's tough.
Chad, I thought Chad Walsh, he had solid stuff, had that great slide by. Just did a good job of getting that, and the final score is 10-6, but I think it was a little bit closer than that. And the best part of that match, 10-6, and it was closer in my mind because he went for that turn, and Jim Gibbons put it best. He's going to get that 9 out of 9 times on any other guy, but he wasn't able to get it. I thought it was awful close to that 2 count. If that was Chuck Yegla, Waterloo ref, that's a 2 count. You're getting that 2 count. But he didn't quite get it, and I think that changed the complexion of the match. I think if they meet at the NCAA tournament, Martinez will blow that open a little bit more. I still think Martinez is getting his legs a little bit and not quite there to his standard.
He was from Ryder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And Gary Taylor's final season, so it would have been fun to have a Midlands champ, but he put on a great show for us. Backing up to 157, I thought Berger had that takedown. I thought they reversed that incorrectly.
Well, and I thought who was he wrestling?
Who, Kemmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Kemmer from Iowa.
Yeah, I thought Kemmer had a takedown at one point in that match, too.
Yeah, so
it seemed to me like the referees might have balanced it out a little bit or something.
It could have been, but overall, did you like the finals? I know you don't like
overall I did.
Yeah, I thought there was some.
They were pretty decent matches. I mean, that one was so boring, and it was so early in the meet, and it was just like, oh, my gosh, I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to see a duplicate of that match.
Well, let's
and there weren't.
Yeah, it wasn't. And, of course, when you get to the heavier weights, it's going to be more boring. But, hey, we got some good entertainment in those middle weights. I think Gilman, if you saw a semifinal match, he had a tough one in the semis, won 8-6, but he is the class at 125. I don't really see anyone challenging him this season. I mean, there's some guys out there that he hasn't seen yet, but if I had to put my money on it right now, man, I don't know who's going to beat Gilman at this point. I just think he's like Nico Megaludis was last year. I don't think Nico Megaludis from Penn State last year was going to be denied in his senior season, and I think the same for Thomas Gilman. I just see a guy who is clicking at a different level.
He is right now.
Than really most of the nation.
You just hope injury bug stays away and he can get through that.
Yeah, I agree because he's a guy that's earned it. I think he's the prototype of what Iowa wants right now.
What is the nature of Clark's injury?
From what I understand, shoulder, but I think it's pretty. They're kind of keeping that disclosed. They're not disclosing too much information on what that is. In the interview with Tom Brands after the Midlands finals, he said they just wanted to do it for more precaution, but should be good to go here.
Still working on strengthening it.
Yep. And,
okay.
Hopefully we'll see Clark, and hopefully it's nothing too
It was
major.
another victory for Brands, the team.
Yeah.
How many is that now for him? 7?
Oh, Midlands championships? It could be. I don't know the final tally of what they've won for Midlands. I know they skipped 1 year, so it's somewhere in there. They have a tradition of winning it. But Iowa won this tournament 150.5 to Nebraska's 135.5. And, hey, we just had Zeke Jones on the other day. Arizona State's got a quality team. They're coming up through the ranks.
They do.
They had 106.5. Iowa State down the line, 12th place with 54.5 points. Again, I don't know where their firepower is coming from with Pat Downey not wrestling in the tournament, so you miss out on some potential points there. I think anytime he's in, he has the chance to win the tournament. I think that even with not necessarily the NCAAs, because I don't think he can beat Gabe Dean. I think Bo Nickel's going to be a challenge, but I think he can be in the mix. And I mean, even with Gabe Dean, as tough as he is and as high level as he's clicking, I think Pat Downey's a dangerous enough guy that he can catch anyone with something and give you fits. So you have to be ready for that style of wrestling that Pat Downey brings. And I think you like Pat Downey.
I love
He
him.
seems like your kind of guy.
Yeah, he was. That's for sure.
He seems like your kind of guy. Oklahoma State did a nice job at Southern Scuffle. And I got to give props to not only Oklahoma State, but I got to give props to Northern Iowa. I thought they wrestled a good tournament. They were in 5th place. At teams like Edinburgh, Virginia. Cornell didn't have a full lineup. But I thought they did a nice job getting through and getting some guys to place. Overall, Josh Albert places 3rd. Max Thompson places 3rd. Bryce Steyert places 3rd. Drew Foster defaulted out to 6th place. And then Taylor Lujan was 7th place at 174. So you had some quality guys there. I think that Dylan Peters is injured, so I don't know what's going to happen there with him and how that's going to materialize. But, man, there's another guy when you talk about injuries, guys you hate to see get injured. I mean, Cooper Moore's out for the season, but to have Dylan Peters go down, that is a tough pill.
Yes, it is.
And I don't know the extensiveness of it. I don't know how severe it is. I don't know if he's going to be able to compete right away, but he certainly is injured. And I certainly do hope that he can get that turned around for his final season, because I think it's probably a little past that point of being able to take that 6-year medical hardship red shirt. So I think he's kind of at that breaking point where it's all in, or he's got to try to finish out this season and get on that podium again. Don't know if you followed the Southern Scuffle
I didn't.
much, but okay. So Oklahoma State sets a record for points, 198. 198. They had 4 champions, 7 total in the finals, 2/3, a 4th, and 2/6. It doesn't add up to 10 because you can take multiple wrestlers.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, they're just top to bottom.
Was Smith back?
Yeah, he was back. He placed 2nd. Top to bottom, this is a pretty good team that's going to be, I mean...
That's why they're number 1.
That's why they're number 1. But there's still that lingering doubt of who's that guy that's going to win it. Now, Dean Heil, here's a guy that he just wins matches. It's going to be 3-1 pretty much every time, but he wins these tournaments. He's defending NCAA champion. I don't quite get this guy, why he can't just get a little bit of a gap, because, man, when you play with fire like that, you start keep hanging on. There's a guy out there that's going to...
Well, he'll have to get burnt once, and hope it happens before he gets to the Nationals.
That's true. I know, but he's a guy that really is intriguing to me as far as just what he's going to be able to do and how that's going to play out. I just think that when you're trying to repeat, you need to have something that gives you a little bit more data that says, hey, this is a guy that's going to put it out there and be able to widen the gap a little bit. Go back to Johnny Thompson back in the day, 2-time NCAA champion. Won it as a sophomore, had a great match as a freshman in 2001 against Eric Juergens, and put it all out there. It was 10-7. It was actually 8-7, and then he went for it, and Eric Juergens got the takedown. Then he won back-to-back championships. But you look at his matches, they were a lot of 3-2s, came into the finals, and you think, this guy's going to get beat. Ryan Lewis is wrestling on fire for Minnesota. And then what does he do? He puts it all out there for those 7 minutes, and he was exhausted, couldn't go another second, but he won those 2 championships. But by his senior year, it kind of caught up with him. His weight was out of control, had to suck back down, then ended up getting 3rd place at that 2004 NCAA wrestling tournament. So it's pretty interesting when you think about the concept of that, just going out there, winning by 1 or 2, but it does take place a lot of times, and Dean Heil did that last year at the NCAA tournament. Now, going back to the Midlands, I don't know if you caught this, but Miles Martin, who was the NCAA champion at 174, got 8th place at 184. Pretty amazing to think about the depth of 184, him going up there. So you have an NCAA champion, go to Midlands, places 8th. I think that you really do have to look at the data of what that means for a guy like
Decow. That's that weight class?
Yeah, it was that weight class. Decow. And there's a guy that it was amazing. Decow places 2nd at Midlands, and he got pretty much handled by Drew Foster at the dual meet.
He got handled. Putting it mildly.
Yeah, he really did. So that was pretty amazing. And then I went back and I looked at Martin's tournament last year where he won it at 174. So he comes in as the 11 seed and wins his opening round match 12-4, and then mild upset, beats the 6 seed 5-3, But then you have a 2-0 win over an unseeded Reed, and then you beat Weatherspoon, who was unseeded, who had a hot tournament to get to the semifinals, beats him 8-2. And then what do? You go into the finals, have the match of your life, and win 11-9. And I don't know if you caught that commentary from Jim Gibbons. No matter what,
that was a great match to watch.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty amazing to think about just how great that match was, the 11-9 match you're talking about from the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
He hit that throw out of bounds and got him to his back for 4. It was pretty amazing.
That was crazy.
It was great. But Gibbons put it best on the commentary. He said, no matter what, he's got that NCAA championship banner.
Yep.
And that's what I think that these wrestlers are so hardwired that sometimes I don't think they appreciate to win that big dance one time. It's a special, special thing. It's a special thing. And so I understand that Tolly Thompson, he was a one-time NCAA champ, wanted more, wanted to win those last 2 seasons. Same with Doug Schwab, but they got it done. And I think there's something to be said about that. And I don't think Martin's going to win the NCAA tournament this year. I like him. I like his style. I like what he can do.
That's why it's so unrealistic to think anybody's just going to win 4 because of what they've done before they get to college.
Yeah, but all you have to do is look at the data with a guy like Martin. You say, hey, he's an NCAA champ, but he came in as the 11 seed. So I think there's unrealistic the next year to say, well, he's just going to light the world on fire because he had 6 losses the year before. So same thing with Meredith, who placed second at the NCAA tournament at 141. He was the 14 seed. So it doesn't really shock me when these guys get beat, especially early in the season, because what they had was they had a hot tournament. Now, Meredith, going back to he really had a great tournament because he beat a lot of top guys. But a lot of times maybe it doesn't materialize as well the next season because you have to do those things to make yourself competitive and be in that situation to be really good again the following season.
Maybe somewhat remiss if we don't at least say something about the Rousey victory, or loss, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, you
can tie it into anything you'd like.
You can. I agree.
I mean, 2 years ago, she was beating the world, and now she's done.
Yeah, I mean, just didn't have wasn't able to get to her opponent to the ground. And I don't know if you saw the fight. It was 48 seconds.
Well,
Nunez really picked her apart. And we're looking at a cousin of wrestling and judo, and that's her background. And I agree with you there, Doug, is that, and this is kind of a Gable principle, and the Brands brothers would say this too, is that it really doesn't matter the credentials or what you have done in the past when you come into a match, because you have to be ready to go, and you have to have those intangibles, and what you did in the past really doesn't matter, other than the experience it brings. There is something to be said about that, and I think that mixed martial arts is a little bit more volatile than wrestling is. I think it's more unpredictable because of that, because you have so many different ways that you can win and lose a match. And as it goes back to the beginning of our conversation, that's why I like writing, is because I like different factors that can determine a match, and how we manage that with not having writing time.
If there was submission holds from the writing position,
well,
maybe.
Hey, we have to take our first break. We're going to be back with Nick Purler of Purler Wrestling Academy next on The Mat.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When all you want is sports, all you need is 1650 The Fan.
We are back on The Mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. Doug, we saw the Midlands, and when you watched the final of the Midlands on the Big Ten tournament, you saw these ads for Purler Wrestling Academy. We have the owner and operator of that academy, someone that got me interested in wrestling. I grew up on Oklahoma State Wrestling, 94. It was one of my favorite teams, where they won the national championship that year with Alan Freed and Pat Smith and Mark Branch. One of the All-Americans on that team was Nick Purler. He's with us. How are you, Nick?
Doing fantastic.
Hey, we see the ads. I'm intrigued by it when I see it. Just explain the concept of Purler Wrestling Academy and why you wanted to get involved at this level with the sport.
Well, basically, I was living in Texas years ago after college, and when I was done with college wrestling, I was a little bit lost. Went into teaching, bounced around for a couple of jobs, and then just decided that I wanted to get back into wrestling, and kind of just decided to start a program which would have benefited someone like myself And so in 1999, November 1st of 1999, I dove in and started, that's how I got my start. But then I guess it was June of 2000 is when I just quit teaching, and I've been doing it full-time ever since.
And so you have a facility that you work out of, own and operate, and have the kids and the athletes just come to your facility?
Well, we're building one right now. We've got a pretty, it's an 8,600 square foot facility we're building right now. It should be done in about 3 weeks. We have 9 acres down the road, and we're starting our bunkhouses in the end of January. We're going to have a 6,500 square foot bunkhouse with a kitchen, and we'll have a full-fledged camp facility by this summer. That's where our summer camps will be. But up until now, for the past 17 years, we have rented out a high school and college wrestling room, and we just travel around to 4 different locations every week. And we've had former wrestlers of ours who have ran locations for us in Southwest Missouri, Chicago, and elsewhere. But for me personally, and Chad Lund and Tony Piscalia, our other 2 coaches, we have 6 locations, and they're basically high schools. Or we also rent out SIU Edwardsville on Mondays. Their wrestling room, Jeremy Space, has been kind enough to help us to rent that. And Missouri Baptist on Wednesdays, which is about 20 minutes down the road from me. That's Coach Brian Jackson, and so those guys have helped us to rent out their facilities. So that's what we've done up until now, and we will continue our academy by kind of traveling to different locations. Only our elite room will be moved to my new facility. Our plan is to start a beginners program and start actively recruiting beginners, age 6 years old, all the way up to 14, and kind of start working with beginners, and that's the plans with the new facility in addition to the overnight camps.
Have you gone down to the facility and just soaked it in and dreamed about all the wrestling that's going to take place there?
Well, it's going to be pretty exciting, yes, just because it's going to be nice to be able to, for me to do less. That's kind of it. I've always had coaches helping. My wife, she works full-time with me side by side, and we help with the the camps and clinics and DVD sales and all that kind of stuff, and the training. And there's a lot of paperwork, as people can imagine. Actually, I think most people don't realize how much office work is involved in anything nowadays. And so it'd be nice having my own facility, because my plan is to Kyle Bradley, who wrestled for Mizzou, he is moving back. He was one of our first students back in '99. He works in sales, so he's moving back to St. Louis from Columbia this June. And former Northern Illinois University wrestler Brad Dickhouse, he trained with us for many, many years. He actually lives close to our facility, so those 2 guys are going to help. And my goal is to still be actively involved in coaching, but I can't do it all. So it's going to be nice to have some flexibility, to have extra training programs in there, weekend camps, maybe open mat time when maybe I'm busy with my family, or I'm gone, or running other practices. So it's going to be a nice flexibility for me to expand the opportunities for our students and athletes, but also to not have to do it all. Because right now it's basically, if we have a location, it's either me at the location doing the training, or Tony or Chad in their location. So having a facility is going to offer the flexibility and utilize these other coaches who want to help.
We are on the mat with Nick Purler of Purler Wrestling Academy, an All-American for Oklahoma State in 1994. Based on what I see and listen to on your commercials, get the feeling that you think that maybe our American training system for the sport of wrestling might be a little off, or maybe doesn't go in the right direction to really develop the athlete in those early stages. Is that accurate? And if so, how do you feel that we should develop athletes to get the best potential out of their career later in life?
100%. I feel like wrestling is there's too much. There's too much. So what we basically do is this: we say underteach, overgrow. We say 90% of your success comes from 10% of the wrestling. We say this: if you want to build a deck, you need a blueprint. You can get boards and nail them together, and hopefully you end up with a deck. But it's best to get a set of blueprints. And that's what gymnastics has done. And, all over the nation, if you're a level 5 gymnast, your routine is the same on the balance beam. And wrestling, we randomly walk into a program. This coach shows a Russian 2-on-1. The next guy shows this. It's like, I wonder how we even compete, seriously. It seems like a very unorganized way of doing things. So we basically say this: how would I beat a wrestler, let's say, at Iowa State? Put that on a piece of paper. Don't waste my time with anything else. And that's sort of our approach, is to boil it down to what's going to win at a high level. And it's not just technique, We have 5 power positions we focus on. I mean, we even practice how to shake hands, practice how to walk into a gym. We practice, our positioning drills. We have our philosophies. We always say it's better to win 1-0 than 12-11. Obviously we want to win 12-0, but we're talking close matches here. We have a lot, kind of a philosophy on how to win matches and stuff. And I just think that if we got more organized, we could be more efficient with the kids and the athletes, and there'll be less trial and error.
So it is similar to mixed or martial arts and how they approach it, that it's more of a level system?
Yes, I am. Oh, yeah, exactly that, with, like, say, karate or something. I think the problem with a lot of that nowadays also is, I know a lot of guys in those fields, is, if a lot of their belts come from time spent, not necessarily your accomplishments. And I think this kind of got watered down a little bit as far as, you can almost buy a belt nowadays in karate. Yes, I would say from a skill standpoint, we broke wrestling down into 4 parts. We have beginner, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and, kind of a building blocks approach. And, obviously it's my opinion. Someone could argue a little bit of it here and there, but I would probably guarantee that if any college coach saw our system of drill routines and whatnot, that they would agree with 99% of it, because it's really not. I'm not a genius. I'm just a guy that sat down and just organized it all out. Because one thing I found out very quickly, when I was a high school coach for 4 years, I had a job no matter what, whether we won or not. So when you're coaching on your own, kids have to win, So I'm kind of in the same position as, let's say a college coach who's at a program where the AD expects them to get W's. So I really kind of got organized and tried to get kids from point A to point B quickly, and that's the reason I kind of mapped this all out.
Do you feel like you're in competition with other clubs that are throughout the country? I know there's a lot, and there's space for that. Chertow's a popular one. I know Eric Aiken has his own that's maybe a little different than yours. But do you feel like that's competition, or do you want these clubs to succeed?
The more wrestling, the better. I'm never really worried about it. People ask those questions sometimes. But I know that for the years I was spent in wrestling, I guess I didn't really worry about my competition. It's not something you think about. I kind of just worry about myself and my kids, And I think, from a business standpoint, because, the camp industry, obviously, there is competition, but I guess the more the merrier. A lot of the top kids kind of make the circuit, I've always I have a lot of kids that go to J-Rob camp, and they come to us, and they go to Jeff Jordan, and it's all great, and I'm friends with all those guys, and but I guess the kids who choose us, I want to make sure that they feel like, hey, these guys care about me. The parents say they didn't waste my son's time, they didn't waste my hard-earned money, they care about me, and so they have good things to say about me, and I've never had any problems over the past 17 years of keeping my rooms and camps full, and I'm sure those guys haven't either. So, I guess the more the merrier. But as far as a competition standpoint, I just try to stay dead focused on doing a great job and putting the kids first, and everything else seems to fall into line.
We are on the mat with Nick Purler of Purler Wrestling Academy, All-American for Oklahoma State in 1994. You had a twin brother, Tony, that won an NCAA championship in 93 for Nebraska. And anytime we have twins, especially identical twins, I have to ask, how bloody did it get when you guys would wrestle against each other?
Bad.
It was bad?
We had holes in the basement wall. And, We basically, but one thing that was good about it was we quit live wrestling. We said, we're done. We can't live wrestle each other anymore. Because what happens is, if I can get kneed in the face in practice by a teammate and I will give him a pass, my brother can mess up my knee pad and I punch him in the face. He would do that with me too. And it's just, I don't know, it's just brothers, I guess. But yeah, we basically quit wrestling each other live. Months would go by because we honestly practiced about 5-6 days a week, and we had a little routine. We kind of took the underachieve your way to the top kind of format where we said we had a clock in our basement where we had a wrestling mat, and we would set it for 20 minutes, and that's what we required ourselves to do 5 days a week. Some days we go there, and, it'd be 20 minutes. We always went a little extra, so let's say 21 minutes, because we were kind of into that. We would leave. Some days we'd walk down there. We wouldn't even turn the clock on because we knew we were going to be in the room for an hour or two. Some days, the clock would go off after 21, 22 minutes. We would unplug it, and we'd stay down there another hour. So, because getting started is the hardest part. So we had it figured out as kids that if we only require ourselves to do let's say 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that turned into hours. But we did realize that to keep from fighting, we would just drill. We became obsessed with technique and wrestling, and I think that was kind of a good thing because a lot of people don't like to drill. And what we try to share with our athletes is this: the fact that I can put someone's arm behind their back against their will and turn them against their will, that's technique. That's exciting. You should be that is very cool, And so that's the kind of approach that we took, and I think that's one reason we had a lot of success. So who knows, maybe if we didn't fight, we might have just engaged in a lot of live wrestling like a lot of other kids do, and who knows, maybe we wouldn't have been as good. So
yeah. So you were at Oklahoma State in 94, 93 season. Oklahoma State could not compete in the postseason. Your brother transferred out to Nebraska, was at Oklahoma State. Why did you stay? Why did you stay for that 94 season instead of transfer out and get another opportunity?
Okay, it was very difficult because my sophomore year, which was his junior year, I wasn't eligible twice. My freshman year, I wrestled and I qualified for the NCAAs. Didn't play, and then me and my brother and Chuck Barbie were ineligible the next year, and then the NCAA punished the team the following year. Of course, Chuck had graduated. My brother was a senior. I was a junior, so I actually lost 2 years of college wrestling eligibility. And but I think the main reason was I took a year off after high school to get bigger. Back then, you could gray shirt, and by the time I was a redshirt sophomore and junior, even my redshirt freshman year, which was actually my third year on campus, my second year in the room, making the weight was unbelievable. So I'm not sure I could have made 118 anyway, and I'm pretty doggone dedicated. So it's one of those things, I weigh 156 right now, and I probably only have 10% body fat. So I got pretty big, and I think that was part of it, but plus everyone else stayed. And I think in 94, I think we had one of the top recruiting classes in the nation that year. We had guys like Jacob Newby and Scotty Renee walking on because there was no scholarships that next year. But the one reason I stayed was because Alan Freed and Pat Smith and all of us just kind of decided to do so. And then for me, I really, really, really thought about transferring because missing out my sophomore year really hurt. And I actually had a win over Sean Charles that year, and that's who my brother beat in the NCAA finals, and that was his only loss was to me. And so I was really like, you know what, maybe I should transfer. But I knew that if push came to shove, since Tony was a senior, let's say we were to meet at the NCAA finals in the semis or something, there was no way I would try to beat him. And I thought, I wasn't going to transfer and go 118. So transferring and knowing I wouldn't ever give myself a chance to win an NCAA title anyway, just because he's my twin brother, and I had 1 year left and he didn't, I just said, you know what, I'm going to stay put with these guys, and we'll make a run for it next year.
You proud of winning that 94 championship team when you look back on it?
Yes, but the fact that I didn't win, I was seeded number one. I was ranked first in the nation all year. You know how it is. This is your only shot, I think if I had had a couple more chances to compete at the NCAA tournament, I might have reacted differently. But, I was really doing well. Probably about January, I started getting really tight, and then you just start thinking about losing, and you want to hold on. I just wanted the season to be over, and I wanted to win. So I was proud of the team, but, I think I was in a state of depression probably for, I don't know, years sort of. People might not, it's just a sport, but you put everything into it. So, yes, I'm very proud of the team. It was great to compete against John Smith, who, was a young coach. Just for me personally, not accomplishing my goals and, just tightening up and wrestling not to lose. And I really didn't enjoy the last half of the season, so that haunted me for a while, and obviously I'm sure that's part of the sport for a lot of people.
Real quick, do you see your brother Tony much?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he lives about 4 hours away. He does the same thing I do. He's got his wrestling academy going over there. He actually has a small gym behind his house, and they train behind his house twice a week, and, they do camps there and you name it. So, yeah, see him quite a bit at tournaments and whatnot, and, of course, family stuff that we're still pretty close.
All right, so maybe the scraps are done, though. No more fighting.
Yeah. we try not to.
Yeah.
How brotherly love.
Well, hey, appreciate you coming on the program. We've seen the advertisements on Midlands.
Yes,
it was intriguing, so I like the concept and what you're doing, and great to catch up with you. Like I said, 94 team was one that always stands out in my mind. You had a great team there, and you were certainly a part of that. So Thank you for being on the program and taking time to talk to us about Purler Wrestling Academy.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Nick Purler. Up next, we have the current Nebraska head wrestling coach who happened to be the former Northern Iowa head wrestling coach. His name's Mark Manning. He's on the mat next.
Log on and listen online at 1650thefan.com, the online home of 1650 The Fan.
We are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. Our final guest is a Panther for life. He was here for 3 years, but that doesn't matter. He's still part of the family. He went to Nebraska, where he's the head coach now, but we have head wrestling coach from Nebraska, Mark Manning, with us. How are you, Mark?
Hey, doing great, Kyle. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, I mean, your experience at UNI really is what built you, right?
There's that laugh again.
Sure. Made me who I am, right?
Yeah, I mean, we gave you your chance, and you built on it and went to a Big Ten school, and that's good.
Yeah,
Bona fides.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I always want to thank the people of Northern Iowa because those people gave me the chance to be a head coach, and I never forget that. And Chris Retrieve hired me, and I had a great staff there, and Brad Penrith and Steve Hamilton and Tolly Thompson. And a lot of fun, and those years were fun and challenging, but that's what it was all about. It was fun, and we had some good teams there, and a lot of good times. And I love the people of Cedar Falls, Waterloo. They're great. I have some good friends still there. Obviously Randy Pugh's coaching there, and then Tolly's back there, and Jim Miller and Eric Keller are good friends of mine. Good memories.
Your first national champion.
That's right, Tony Davis. He's a beast, and stay in touch with Tony quite a bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the last one for UNI still, so you have that history. Last one was 16 years ago when you won it for UNI with Tony Davis.
Yeah, it was fun. Tony did a great job.
Yep. Now, as we look toward what you have going at Nebraska, you have a good team. You guys placed second at Midlands. I know you probably wanted to win it. Of course you did. But when you look back at it, I think there's a lot of positives you can take from it. Where do you feel like you are as a team right now?
Well, I kind of expected what happened. I know we have a good team. And I look at it from the perspective that, I knew Aaron Studebaker and T.J. Dudley, Eric Montoya. I knew, we're going to, even Tyler Berger, we're going to be tough outs there. If they wrestled, up to, 89% of their ability, they're going to be right in there, in the finals. Even though a guy like T.J. Dudley, 184 was a really, really competitive weight class. If you looked, at the number of guys who were there, Renda was a multiple All-American, Miles Martin, national champion, Sam Brooks. There are some tough guys there at 84, and so but TJ kind of the cream kind of rose to the top there, and he really showed why he's pretty dominant. So I knew that it's about the other guys on our team that need to step up, or some stepped up during the tournament, but I think we didn't have the performance we could have at 141, 149. We left some points out there, 174. So I look at those weight classes where we fell a little short of our expectations.
133.
But overall, very good.
Yeah, 133, Eric Montoya, a guy that afterward, in his interview, he made it sound like he's ready to take on the world. Does he exude that in the wrestling room, that he has that overwhelming confidence that you see day to day?
He that's how he acted in July, though. Hey, if you're around Eric much, in the summertime, that's how he acted during summer camps.
Right.
So he's ready to go 24/7, 365 a day, and it's great. Have a guy who's very competitive like that. It's infectious. You get guys on your team that are like that, and that can drive other people to bring out the best in them. And so I love it. I love his attitude, and he backs it up with his work ethic. He goes the extra yard. We have to hold him back, actually, some days and some weeks, just because he'll just work till he grinds himself down. So he really backs it up with his work ethic, and he really believes in himself, and that's just the inner confidence that he has. That's really, really great.
We are on the mat with Mark Manning, head wrestling coach at the University of Nebraska. 141 is an interesting weight class. Your starter, Colton McChrystal, did not place, but you had another guy, Chad Redd, place fourth. What are you going to do there at that weight class?
I don't know. What do you think we should do?
I think you should go with Chad Redd. That's just me, though. But you see it day to day.
We see it day to day. Colton didn't have a great tournament, and he knows that. But we have some options, obviously, right there at that weight class. They beat both each other. CJ's beat him in the South Dakota State Defconics Open early in the year, and then Colton beat him in the Cyclone Open Finals. And so they've kind of gone back and forth. But we have some good options there, and it's going to play out as the season goes on. But right now, Colton's going to be our guy right now, and we'll just see how it kind of evolves here in the next couple weeks.
All right, 157. Of course, everyone wants to know. It was a controversial match. There were some heated exchanges. What do you think happened there? I know that there was a call there that I think at the end there where Berger looked like he had the takedown. What did you see? What transpired there from your vantage point that they reversed the call?
Well, if I would have been a ref, it would have been two, but no, I'm just kidding. It looked like it was two. Looked like, Berger had both ankles and both hands are down. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure you got to nail him down. You just nail him down. You drive him down, and then the ref there's no gray area. And so, that's what I told Tyler. This is it's not about who was right and the official was wrong or this. It's not that. You just go and finish the match, and we had an opportunity to win in overtime, and the kid rode us more than we rode him, and then we had to let him up because we got ridden too long. So, he outworked us there in the 30-second overtime, and we didn't get it done. So you can't. You just move on. The official made the call, whether it was right or wrong. you had an opportunity to win and you didn't take advantage of it. That's what I told my guy. Hey, next time you thought it was it, nail him down then. And so you got to give a little bit more effort. And so that's what's great about our sport. And they're going to meet again in February, and they're probably going to meet in the Big Tens. And you got a chance to meet in the NCAA tournament. So there's a lot of opportunity to redeem yourself. It's not about, revenge. It's more about finishing the match how you want to, If you got a takedown, you make sure it is a takedown, and your effort determines that.
184, TJ Dudley wins it at a really competitive weight class this season. But, hey, two guys bumped up from 174. They got ranked pretty high. Did he take that personal that he was a returning finalist and maybe didn't get the love in the preseason rankings that he might have thought he deserved?
Nah, that usually comes here at Nebraska. We've had that since I've been here at Nebraska. Usually, it's whether it was Jordan Burroughs moving up to 165 and Andrew Howe was going to beat him by 37 points. We've had that. That's kind of always the theme here. So we're used to that, where you just got to go out and earn it, and you go out and earn it by staying focused on each season, what you're doing and your routine, what your attitude and effort are going to be each and every time out. So really we don't pay too much attention to that. But yes, yeah, you bet. They're human. These guys look at all that social media stuff and they see that, someone, it is somewhat disrespectful, but you have opportunity to just take care of business and you just got to go out and wrestle. And doesn't matter if someone's ranked, whether the guy's ranked 4th or 2nd, who cares? It's all going to get decided in March, right? And that's ultimate determining factor, and we stay focused on that rather than the exterior stuff.
We are on the mat with Mark Manning, head wrestling coach at the University of Nebraska. You have a unique position that very few people kind of change the trajectory of the sport of wrestling, and you have one of those that has been through your program, still a part of it. Jordan Burroughs. What's the Jordan Burroughs effect like?
Jordan Burroughs is, obviously he's a product of our program, but Jordan's just, he trains here today. He's around our guys all the time. He's just a great mentor. What a great mentor, I would say, to have around your guys. What an example of someone's going to work hard. He's won at the highest level multiple times. He's been a 2-time national champion, Dan Hodge Award winner. But more than that, it's his character. What is he like? What's he like when he got beat on Reno, coming off? He's come back, and his passion and drive are heightened, and I would say he's got just a tremendous perspective right now. He trained really hard with James, getting him ready, James Green, for the World Championships, a few weeks ago, and so he's a giver of himself, and he's done a good job, and he really gives to the guys that he trains with and that he's around on a daily basis. He's like just an older teammate, sort of thing. But he's also someone our guys can really look to for answers. And hey, when you were in this position, how'd you handle this? It's a great sounding board, and Jordan's he's excellent with young men. So it's kind of comes very natural for him.
You said this before. I want to still see if it's accurate. Craig Brester, is he the hardest worker that's ever come through your program?
Wow. Craig Brester, Eric Montoya's, he's trying to surpass Craig Brester.
Yeah.
There, he's pretty hard working, man. He's always the last one out of the room every day. Has been for years. Last couple of years, in the summer and the spring. He's a pretty hard worker.
So you're putting Eric Montoya there. So you're saying Montoya now. We got a new champ and the hardest worker.
Oh, a new champ.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. But
All right.
But he's you're right. I like it, Kyle. I like that. Craig Bresser was really special because where he came from, he was a walk-on guy. I just remember Jake Barner just, I wasn't there at open meets, but when they were younger, Jake Barner just, I heard it's like 50-second matches, just roll him up. And when they were both redshirt freshmen, just when he was 184 and then 197, they had some very competitive matches. And so it is good. But Craig's especially young man. They're both unique in their own way. Eric's he's fun to be around, and you can't get away from how passionate he's about the sport and how much he puts into it. It's very motivating.
All right, we've been talking with Mark Manning of the University of Nebraska. He has a big meet coming up this weekend, so if you're in the area or even if you want to travel to go see this, Penn State against Nebraska, you have a great dual meet team. Penn State has one. This should be one of the best meets that you're going to see this season, so we hope everyone will turn out for that dual meet this weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. It's going to be a great match on Sunday, and it's a good challenge for our team, and it's I think our guys are really looking forward to that challenge.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on. You had 3 years of your life here in Cedar Falls, and welcome back through the airwaves.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and thanks for the people that all helped me when I was there. So thanks again, Kyle. Thanks for having us on.
All right, we appreciate it. Hey, that was Mark Manning.
Thank you, Coach.
He does have a good team this year, and if you want to check out a good dual meet, seriously, check out Penn State.
In Lincoln this week?
In Lincoln. You should go to it. You have family there.
I know. That's a good excuse to see the grandkids and some wrestling.
Yeah, so it's been fun. We've had a lot of fun catching up with Nick Purler. We've never talked before. And we had Mark Manning, who we've had on the show before. For Doug Van Gelder, I'm Kyle Klingman.
You've been listening to On the Mat, the Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.